Hey everyone, today we're going to be doing something a little different than a normal Lego video. Today we're going to be talking about my syndrome, which is Alstrom Syndrome.
So we have a bunch of questions. People submitted some questions, and so we're just going to go through those, try to go through them as quick as we can so that this video doesn't take forever.
Yeah.
I'll answer some, he'll answer some, and then we may both talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
So the first question is, what is Alstrom Syndrome? So I'm going to read here because it's really complicated. So it's a rare autosomal recessive genetic disorder thought to have a prevalence of less than 1 per million in the general population. It's characterized by the progressive development of multi-organ pathology. Symptoms first appear in infancy with great variability in age of onset and severity of clinical symptoms, even within families. The severity of this disease often leads to organ failure and results in a reduced life expectancy, rarely exceeding 50 years. It encompasses cone rod dystrophy, hearing loss, childhood obesity, type 2 diabetes, short stature in adulthood, dilated cardiomyopathy, and progressive pulmonary, hepatic, and renal dysfunction. Fibrosis typically develops in multiple organs. It's caused by mutations in the ALMS1 gene. So that's pretty much what it is. It's complicated.
It sounds complicated when even she read it. It sounded complicated even when she read it, just no.
So what are the symptoms? So the symptoms are all the same, but it varies from person to person. We have met a few people with it.
Yeah.
And some of them have the same symptoms of Caleb, some have different, but usually like if they have a heart condition, it's usually the same heart condition. So you have the neurosensory defects. Caleb has cone rod dystrophy, which it causes. He is legally blind. Probably will lose all of his vision. I have seen in the Alstrom Facebook group one other person who's 18 and hasn't lost all their vision yet. And then there was one other person that commented and said they lost theirs at age 21. So we just went to his 6-month eye appointment not long ago and found out he has cataracts now also. So I would be surprised if it doesn't happen within the next couple years. Obesity, that typically happens around within the first or second year, and that's how it was with him. Of course, you don't remember, but he was a normal weight until right after his second birthday, and then he just exploded. And it was mostly in his stomach, but he went up like 4 or 5 sizes within no time. Type 2 diabetes, he actually does not have diabetes. He's not even pre-diabetic anymore, so that's good.
Yeah.
That I really don't want to have to do check your blood sugar and stuff all the time, so we're happy about that.
Yeah.
His A1C is actually pretty good.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that it is too, because I thought it was very high.
Yeah. Cardiomyopathy, so dilated cardiomyopathy and congestive heart failure manifest in approximately 2/3 of individuals with Alstrom. He does have dilated cardiomyopathy and he has congestive heart failure. It says that it's a major cause of morbidity and mortality. He was diagnosed with DCM in October of 2017, about almost a year after we moved here. We're from a small town in eastern Kentucky. We came to Louisville in 2016. He got really sick in October of 2017, was in the hospital for about a week. And a cardiologist came in and he knew, he was like, I think he has a heart condition just by the way he was sitting.
Yeah.
And so they did some tests that day, and by the end of the day, I knew what he had. That's been hard to deal with. It was very difficult at first. Being able to manage it pretty well until this year. This year we've had a lot of setbacks with it. Renal disease, he does have stage 2 kidney disease. We don't have to do a whole lot for that right now. He's on a couple of medications and stuff for it. His labs in early August, wasn't it? Looked pretty good. So I'm hoping that when we go back to the kidney doctor in probably another month or 2, that's okay. Hypogonadism, it's seen in both males and females, but it's more frequent in males. Low normal levels of testosterone occur. He was getting testosterone injections for years. We switched doctors.
And then he's giving me a break right now.
He's giving him a break. He is producing a little bit of testosterone.
Yeah.
Still not. He's never really went through like voice changes or anything like that.
No.
But that's not always one of our biggest concerns, that appointment. See, respiratory illness, this is our biggest trouble, isn't it? Is his lungs.
Yeah.
He has asthma. This was the first symptom that he had. He was diagnosed with asthma before he even turned a year old. I used to notice it especially whenever I took him outside when he was a baby, and the dogs would be outside playing, and I could feel his back rattling all the time. And so he was diagnosed with asthma before he turned a year old. Almost every hospitalization he's had has been for respiratory reasons. His lung function is up to 46%, but it was 21% in June. He was really, really, really sick.
Yeah.
And so usually when he's in the hospital, it's asthma related, which in turn affects his heart. His heart rate will go really high. His heart numbers will get out of control.
And she knows, and she'll have to tell them.
Yeah, I usually can tell the doctors what his labs will be, what the numbers will be. His blood pressure will bottom out sometimes whenever he gets like that. That normally, pretty much every time he's been in the hospital has been respiratory, except for a few months ago, he was in the hospital because he had fluid build up around his heart, which was causing respiratory problems. He couldn't breathe. He wasn't able to walk 10 steps on a flat surface without his oxygen dropping down into like the 80s. So he was really struggling there.
Yeah, that was really difficult.
It can cause liver problems. We go to the liver doctor actually next week, I think it is.
Oh, you?
Yeah.
Okay.
As of last summer, his liver looked okay. They had to do a liver MRI because of his size, and it actually looked good. There was no fibrosis. So that was good.
Yeah. Because we don't want scarring.
No.
Because if you get that, guys, it leads to a lot of problems.
There are distinctive facial characteristics, usually deep set eyes with a rounded face. You definitely have a round face. He's cute though. Thick ears. You don't have thick ears. You got good ears, don't you?
Yeah.
Thin hair, balding. We're good there right now. We can handle thin hair and balding. Wide, thick, and flat feet. He has very wide, very thick, flat feet. Causes scoliosis. He has severe scoliosis. We go to Shriners. His spine is basically
It's
an
like
S.
so basically, guys, it's just an S shape.
Yeah.
And like, so if I stand up for a really long time, I can't. And so I have to sit down, or like, if we're in like a shop, like in a grocery store or something, well, I'll have to lean over the cart while we're in there for a while. Yeah.
Just sit up straight right now. So normally in videos or something, you've probably seen, you probably don't pay attention, but usually his shirt will be over like this. It's because he keeps his shoulder up all the time to kind of even his back out. He has a lot of back pain. We have a wheelchair, and it's for his back because he physically can't walk for breathing. It's just hard to breathe if he's walking for so long, but mostly the back, he just physically cannot handle it. They have short, stubby fingers. No, he doesn't really have short, stubby. I mean, I don't think so, but they're a little chub, ain't they? When was Caleb diagnosed? He was diagnosed with Alstrom on January 7th, 2022.
Yeah.
We were at the doctor here in Shelbyville. He was sick. It was a Friday, and I thought, let me see if I can get him in before the weekend comes, so that way we could avoid the hospital.
And it was also with my pediatrician.
Yeah, so the pediatrician got him in. We went there. He had tested positive on a rapid test for COVID. So I was freaking out. The doctor was freaking out.
Yeah, and the nurses, they were like, or the staff there were like freaking out too, because they was like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do?
So his pediatrician was already on the phone with the pulmonologist saying, what do you want me to do with him?
Yeah.
But so they did a PCR, and in that 20 minutes, the doctor, he's a genetic ophthalmologist at the University of Kentucky, called me with the diagnosis.
Yeah.
I didn't think anything of it. The summer of 2021, he went to his 6-month ophthalmology appointment at UK with the same doctor he's seen since he was about 6 years old. She said then, we have a new doctor on staff. I would like for him to see Caleb. He's one of only, I think, 3 or 8 in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, sure. We went and saw him in August 2021.
And he did like 3 tests.
Yeah, he did some tests in the office that day, brought us back in the room, and he said, I don't think this is what we originally thought he had, the syndrome. He said, because the back of the eyes would look different.
They don't look a lot like redness pigmentation, like what he's said they look like.
Yep. So we did genetic testing that day. Test came back probably around November.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't get there. So I was going back and forth with the doctor's office to say, well, can't you just call us and give us the results?
Yeah.
Because you don't need us to come back in. We went back to his regular ophthalmologist in probably late December of 2021, and I told her we still hadn't got the diagnosis or the results of that. And then so that doctor called on Friday, January 7th, and said it's not what we originally thought he had from the time he was about 6 or 7 years old, but that it's commonly mistaken for that, and instead it's this. And so I didn't know anything about it. I was just focused on what was going on in the doctor's office that day.
Yeah.
And so I looked it up real quick, and I saw some of the symptoms, and I was like, oh gosh, Caleb has that, that.
And she showed me it too, and I was like, and she was like, yes, this is what all you have, because this is just like a checklist of what you have.
And then at the bottom I saw it said a life expectancy of 40 years, and I was like, well, forget that, I'm not looking at that.
No.
And so I texted to one of my brothers, and he started looking at it. We were on the phone probably about 15 minutes after that, once we found out he did not have COVID. Talked to my brother. He was like, oh my gosh, it's Caleb to a T, just every single symptom he checks off on.
Yeah.
And so that was a Friday. By that Sunday, I was on the phone with a guy here in the United States who heads like an Alstrom Foundation, and learned there was one other Kentuckian with Alstrom, and so I was on the phone with him a few days later.
Mm-hmm.
He has since passed. He passed it this past summer. So to our knowledge, Caleb is the only diagnosed Kentuckian with Alstrom Syndrome.
Yeah.
Wasn't he originally diagnosed with something else? Yes.
Yes, I was originally diagnosed with Bardet-Biedl syndrome, which is very similar to what I have, what they thought it was, but I have this syndrome, which is Alstrom.
Mm-hmm. So when he was 6, the ophthalmologist he was seeing retired and referred us over to who he's been seeing now for over 10 years, Dr. Stevens at UK. She recommended we do an EEG. That's whenever she found out he had cone rod dystrophy. Cone rod dystrophy is a genetic eye condition. So we then went to the Cleveland Clinic, saw the head of pediatric ophthalmology. They thought it was a couple of other things, which turned out to be false. He didn't have those. They thought, okay, we think it's Bardet-Biedl syndrome. So they tested for that, but there was not a gene match. So then they sent us to a geneticist at Cincinnati Children's. When we went there, he made the clinical diagnosis of BBS, Bardet-Biedl syndrome. So I'll just say BBS. He said it was more of a clinical diagnosis. Caleb fit everything on it at the time, so it made sense. The only thing he did not have was like the extra digits, an extra finger, and they weren't webbed. But everything else, Caleb had every other symptom of it, so it made sense. And I didn't think as time went on, when all these new symptoms were added, I just didn't think, okay, well, maybe it's not that. I'm not a doctor, so I just didn't think that it could be something else.
She's not like a specialist or anything. She just...
No, I'm not a doctor.
No, she just tried to be a good mom.
What symptoms does he have? So he has the Colmar dystrophy. He's legally blind. His chronic asthma, dilated cardiomyopathy, congestive heart failure, stage 2 renal disease. He has sleep apnea, so he does wear a CPAP at night. His scoliosis, and it's really bad. I feel really bad for him. Is that it? I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's it right now.
Yeah.
So let's hope the liver doctor's okay.
Yeah.
How many medications does Caleb take? He takes 8 different pills, and some of them are just once a day, morning or night. Some are twice a day.
Yeah.
2 inhalers every day. One is twice a day, one is once a day. And he's maxed out on everything.
Yeah, and then I have like 4 vitamin medicine.
He takes 4 different vitamins that the doctors recommend.
Yeah.
He has his rescue inhaler, which is albuterol. I carry one with me all the time. He does the nebulizer treatments if he needs them, and then duo nebs if he needs those. So I kind of know about, depending on how sick he is, which one I need to give. And then we always have steroids on hand. His pulmonologist, I always have steroids here in case it's a weekend and I know when he needs them, I go ahead and start giving them. Does AS cause him pain? Not the syndrome itself.
But like the other conditions that are involved with it do, like the back, like scoliosis, that one I know it does, and like the heart, lungs, I can tell when it like hurts like to breathe, or like
sometimes when he's having trouble breathing, he'll say that causes pain. It like hurts to breathe. The back causes pain, and then of course when he's sick, actively sick, there's a lot of needles, there's IVs. That's hard on him. That causes him a lot of pain. Is there a cure? There's not a cure for AS.
No.
You just treat each symptom as they appear. How many times a year is he sick? Sometimes he has a good year, and it might only be
maybe like 1.
Oh no, we're always more than one.
Yeah.
It might be like maybe 4 times. This year he's already been in the hospital 3 times, I think. 3 or 4 times.
And then I think I've been sick.
But he was pretty much sick. He got the flu in early January, about mid-January, and that set him back tremendously. He did not truly recoup from that until probably the beginning of July, mid-July. So we were very careful. He was very sick this year.
It just took me down.
It took you way down,
didn't it? It did, guys. I could tell, because like...
you couldn't do anything.
No.
He couldn't even walk. It was horrible. I went to school to pick him up one day. He graduated in May, but back at the beginning of the year, I went to school to pick him up, and I walked upstairs, and to walk downstairs, which has never put him out of breath before, but at the top of the stairs, his oxygen level was like 93, 94, but by the time we walked down a flight of steps, it was like 87, 88. He was really struggling. Like, he just could not do anything. It was really scary. When he's sick, what does it usually do to? It's usually respiratory. It's his
lungs.
The one time this year, it was his heart. I went nuts one day on the doctor because they was like, oh, well, he's coming in a couple weeks. And I was like, no, something's going on. We need to come today. So they actually had me take him to the ER, and he ended up staying in the hospital for 1 or 2 days. He had fluid build up around his heart that was making it difficult to breathe, and he had never had that. So I thought, please don't let this be a new thing that happens all the time.
And I don't know if that was just, if I just drank too much like liquid, or if that was just...
No, and that's always a battle. He can't drink too much.
Or too less.
Or too little, because his kidneys, they want him to drink some, but his heart can't handle it. So it's like...
what do you do? Do you battle with this?
Do you drink water or do you not drink water?
It's like a battle. It's like, do or do not.
Yes, it's such a fine line. He dehydrates really quickly.
And she knows.
And so that makes it really difficult when he is sick to get veins, because he'll get really dehydrated and there's just no veins.
Yeah.
Everything will blow.
Like one time when I was in the hospital, they had to sting me like 6 times. And
it was a rough night.
Yeah, and I said like a bad.
What'd you say?
I said a bad word.
What was it? Don't say the word.
It was like one of the F words, I think.
He told the nurse to shut the F up.
Yeah.
You didn't mean to.
But I was just in pain, and like it was just like they were sticking me like crazy. They stuck me in this arm and my left, and then they were sticking my right too, and they couldn't find us. And then they finally did, and I think my right one or my left one.
Yeah, she was trying to talk to me, and you just said, "Shut the F up." And we were all shocked, weren't we? Because he doesn't say anything like that.
No, but I was just like done. I was just like,
how much does it cost for him each year? He's expensive. I went back, I actually looked at my old taxes and stuff from years. I have them for probably about 10, I have about the past 12 years. It has cost me anywhere between, there was one year where it was close to $9,000. So it just depends. When he was young, the most difficult thing for me was glasses. He went through, this is not an exaggeration, 30 pairs of frames. In the first 9 months. So in the first 9 months of wearing glasses, I bought 30 frames.
oh,
I went into a lot of debt then for you. And so it was a trip too from Eastern Kentucky to Lexington multiple times a week sometimes to get new glasses, because he would just take them off and break them. And so that was a huge expense. For a very long time, he was taking 2 inhalers a day, and they were like $75 a month. And I was working full time, but I was a minimum wage employee. I couldn't afford it. It was just me. I just couldn't afford them. There were quite a few times when he was little that I was like, oh God, please let my parents have cooked dinner tonight, because then we could eat at their house, because I didn't have money. Like I had money for food for him in the house, or I would just eat the packs of peanut butter and crackers. There was only enough food for one of us, and obviously I was going to let him eat. But it was really expensive. Luckily, we was able to get quite a few samples. I called everywhere and would get samples from people for inhalers and stuff, because I simply could not afford them.
And then I think, don't you do that now too?
No, I don't need to now. So now he actually does, he does get Medicaid now, which is a lifesaver. He has his commercial insurance, which is primary, and then Medicaid, and that has helped so much this year, because I don't have any help anymore with him financially. So thank God for that, because it's a struggle enough as is. So I don't know how I would pay for that stuff. Do you have support with him, like help? We have people who I can call when he's sick, who will, I'm certain would come if I needed help.
Yeah.
There's a handful of people who I think would come if I really needed help. I've done this for almost 19 years by myself, so I'm pretty used to that. The grandparents, the grandmothers helped a lot whenever he was young. My mom did a lot of doctor's appointments whenever he was young for me, because I was an hourly employee. I couldn't take time off. And employers do not like that. I got rolled up a lot whenever he was young and would get sick, and I would be home with him. But now, I mean, people pray for him. And there are unexpected people who are not related to us, that we're not really close to from back home, who, when he is sick, sometimes in the hospital, I really appreciate it, because the hospital doesn't bring the parent a tray of food. And so you have to walk over to the other hospital and order food, and it ends up taking me like it ends up taking me about 30 minutes, and I don't like to be away from him for that long. So they will.
I don't either, because like if I get news of like if something is coming, like I want her to be there, so like she knows too. Because like some of the stuff I can remember, but then some of the stuff, like newer stuff that they say, or like if they're saying stuff that they're gonna do through the night, I'm like, I can't remember all that stuff.
Yeah. So I try not to leave the room if possible.
Yeah.
So it's much easier for me. We've had a few people that will order like gift cards whenever he's in the hospital to like DoorDash or Uber Eats, something like that. And that's a whole lot easier if I can order something to eat and just go downstairs and grab it real quick and get back up to the room to him, versus going to a whole other hospital that's across the street and having to order food and wait over there. That takes too long. So usually during the daytimes I won't eat, but we do have some people who would come, and then we have quite a few people who I would think would offer more support who don't offer any support. They are of absolutely no help to me whatsoever. Here's what I'll say. Family is not always the people who are related to you. And that's for both of our sides of the family. I have my one brother who will come to the hospital sometimes and checks on him multiple times throughout the day and calls him. And then we have people who are not related to us who check on us constantly. So it does not always come from the people you would think that it should come from. But it's okay. I can take care of him. How many appointments does he go to monthly, and does anyone help with those? So nobody helps with them. My mom did when he was young. Like I said, she has a couple of times down here as well. I always want to be at pulmonology and cardiology. I need to be at those. But like there's 2 appointments he goes to where it was just a testosterone shot. And then every 8 weeks, every 8 weeks he gets a Fasenra injection. It's for his asthma. So my mom would take to those because they were kind of easy to get to, those offices in the Louisville area. She doesn't like that traffic. But she hasn't done that in probably a couple of years. She hasn't had to. I haven't asked her to. If I did ask her to, she would come and do it.
And I know, because she loves me a bunch, and I know she would just come down here.
Nobody else helps with those, and no one offers to help with those. You would think someone might, but nobody offers to help me with those. It's okay. How does this affect your life for both of you?
It makes it more harder to do some of the normal stuff that other kids do, like be able to go outside for a long period, or like just to be able to breathe more easily here. Because sometimes I can't do that. I can't do what they can do.
Honestly, it affects everything in our lives. Every single decision I make is revolved around what he needs. Where we live. So we moved here in 2016 so he could go to school here because he's legally blind, and just back home, they just don't have the services he needs. And now that he's graduated, we honestly thought we would move. We said, this is our opportunity to go wherever we want to go.
But
as long as they have good hospitals close by. And now it's like, there's just too many appointments. All the doctors have agreed to keep him until 21, and I just don't want to switch all those.
Because that's just a lot. It's just too many to switch those. It would be so confusing.
Yes. The hospitals, that's what I was thinking of. We have to be really close to hospitals. I've had to call ambulances a few times, and I cannot be back home with that. I have to have good hospitals close by. So if we're staying in Kentucky, I got to be near Louisville or Lexington to get him to what I think are the best hospitals. I need ambulances, and whenever I need one, I need them now. What else does it affect? Where I work, I have to be able to work somewhere where I can take care of him and not have to worry about getting fired. It affects where we go, what we do. There's a lot of stuff we want to go do, but we can't do because he physically is not able to do it. It affects where I go. I don't ever go any more than probably 30 to 45 minutes away from him. The last time I went any longer than that, I think was 2021. I went to Tennessee, but he was with my brother, so I was okay, and he wasn't sick. I don't date because I just want to take care of him. I don't want to fool with anybody. I just want to give him all my time. I don't want anybody else to have it. It affects every single thing we do. Every decision we make, no matter what, it affects us financially, even though he does have Medicaid this year. There are a lot of things he wants to do that I want him to get to do, places he wants to see.
Like I want to go travel, like go to different countries and stuff, but it's like so hard.
Yeah, it is. it's just hard, the logistics of it, but also just financially. But there are things he wants to do that on one income, I just can't make that happen.
I know.
So I desperately need a second job, but I need a second job from home because I don't want to be out in the public all day long and risk bringing something back to him because he just can't handle
if she was out in the public all day and like if I had gotten sick or if like something had happened while I'm here, she can't come back and like try to help.
Yeah. I also just don't want to be away from him for that long because I just don't know how long I have. So I don't want to be away. Somebody asked, what are 3 things that you love about Alstrom and what are 3 things that you hate? I don't love anything about it. I don't know how anybody could, honestly. Do you? I hate it with a passion.
I mean, I don't hate it, but like I don't have like a hate passion like what you do. It's like a thing that I know is here now than what it was before.
Yeah, he's much more positive than I am, and that's typical Kate. He doesn't complain. He's always positive, but I hate it with everything in me. I hate it. I wish we could go back to January 6th whenever I never knew it existed. I appreciate the very few people that we know with it, like their support, because there is no one else who understands what it's like for me other than another mom or dad who are actually going through it, actually involved in the kid's life, in their care, that are going through the depths of it the same as I am. So I appreciate them and I'm thankful for their support, and as nice and kind as they are, I would gladly give up ever having known any of them even exist if it meant he didn't have Alstrom. I hate it. Everything about it, I hate it. No.
Also, we went to the Alstrom clinic.
Yeah, we went to an Alstrom clinic in March of 2022, right after he was diagnosed. That was really good. It was in Baltimore. Doctors there that understand it more than any other doctors. Most of his doctors had not heard of it.
And one of them went back 4 years into my back room,
One of the doctors went back 4 years.
I think it was
gastro. And he was like, oh, didn't they see these labs? Even his cardiomyopathy, they said he had it for years and it had went misdiagnosed. So it kind of, I get very angry about that sometimes. What's your biggest fear with Alstrom?
Mine probably losing my sight could be one of my biggest fears. But that, and then probably losing all my hearing, that would be pretty nervous too.
Yeah, so that's a symptom too, is hearing loss. He does not have, he doesn't really have any hearing loss yet, which quite a few people that I've talked to with Alstrom are surprised by that he hasn't lost his hearing yet. But if I wish, if it were up to me and it was one of those senses that you lost, I would much rather you lose your hearing than your vision.
Yeah, because a lot of kids, if they do, they can get those those
cochlear implants and stuff. I just think it would, for me personally, I just feel like I would, if I got to choose, if I had to lose one of my senses, I would choose my hearing over my vision. He loses his vision. It's like, oh gosh, then
everything's
the Lego building. I don't know. I mean, we'd have to figure it out. I don't really know. It would be difficult to figure out how to continue building Legos. And he has this Lego YouTube channel, and he loves Legos more than anything. So I would hate that for him. He loves going to the movies because he can see it because it's such a big screen. And so, we could still go. You'd have to hear it.
Yeah,
but I just couldn't imagine not being able to see it anymore.
Yeah, if that happened, I'd have to ask for one of them to give me one of those listening devices for it.
I just think that would be, I just really dread that.
Yeah.
What's your biggest fear? For me, one, him losing his vision. I do not want him to lose his vision. I know there are far worse things that could happen. So I would take that over other things. But 2 is just, it's just losing him. So I know how sick he is. I know how weak his heart is. I know how difficult it is for him to breathe. And are you crying? I just like I just cannot imagine. I just cannot imagine him not being here. That's the most difficult part for me, like, and I truly hope and pray if I do, and I do think I probably will. I honestly thought a few months ago, I truly thought he wouldn't be here by the end of this year because he was that sick. And I didn't share all that, but he was that sick that I thought there's no way he'll be here. And I just cannot imagine it. I'm not married. I don't have any other kids. It's just me and him. My whole entire life revolves around him. So I just can't imagine that. But if it does happen, I'm like, please. Like, I truly pray that my heart would just break so bad I just go too. Because I just wouldn't want to be here. I don't know how any parent can get through that. So that's my biggest fear. Stupid video, ain't it? He doesn't worry about that, but of course he's not the parent. So for me, that's it. Like, I don't know what I would do. I just do not, I think no parent should ever have to do that. So that's my biggest fear. Like, it should have been anybody else but him. Anybody. It shouldn't have been him. It makes me mad. It makes me sad. I do not understand how, I know you're not supposed to question it, but I just don't understand how people who beat kids and rape people and murder, I just don't understand how it just doesn't make sense to me. How do they get to live? But someone like him, he's like the best person in the entire world. So, just so sense to me. Anything else? It's like a therapy session. I really need to be in therapy because I won't be good now after this video. Like, what is today? Thursday? I'll be messed up for about 3 or 4 days. And that's what happens. Like, this year, there's been, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 people with Alstrom that have passed away. And it's a very small group of people anyway. And every time I see one of them pass, I'm like, oh God. Like, I just completely lose it. And I'm not good for about a week. Like, I cry every single day over him. Whenever one of them passes, I can just lose it. I really should be in therapy for it. But I don't have time to go to that. And of course, can't pay for it and stuff either. So every time we make, I know people see us and they're like, yeah, but you take trips. Yeah, but you don't know what sacrifices we make. So I do, so we can take trips. I wear the same pair of jeans every single day. Every single day. So I pick and choose what we spend our money on. He does, and he has multiple things, but I eat cereal most days at work. I don't go out to eat and stuff like that, so that way I can take him out to eat. or go on vacation. But when we do go on vacations, we're not eating fancy things. We're not spending a lot of money on foods. We just pick and choose. Yeah, it's really difficult. I want him to be able to see and do as much as possible while he has his vision and while he physically can. It's just, that's what I hope for him. Anything else? Stupid video. It's crazy. It's a bad disease, isn't it? It's nicknamed the monster. Alstrom is, and it truly is a monster. Like, there's nothing good about it. The people are nice that you meet with it, but I meet nice people all the time, and I love them. I think they're great, but you want another tissue? But I would do without ever having met him if it meant he didn't have to have Alstrom. I know people, I think, should much rather have this instead of him, but that's not for me to decide. So I'm sure this video's been going on way too long. I was trying not to, and I could sit here and talk for a whole lot longer than this. But, and maybe we'll do a part 2 to kind of talk about each thing individually if people have extra questions. But for now, I think that's all I can handle for today.
All right.
It's 6 o'clock. I'm hungry. Are you? We eat a lot of beans. I eat a lot of beans, things like that, because so that way we can have more money to do on things. Vacations. So we need a break, don't we? Thank you all for supporting him the way that you have supported him, his channel. I check it every morning, every night, multiple times a day. And that was the only thing he wanted to do after graduating. And he said, what was it, like 2 weeks ago in the car? He said, I truly love what I do. And he said, I don't make any money, and he don't make a dime. But he said, I really love what I'm doing. And that's all I wanted was, I said, you don't have to pay the bills in the house. I didn't have a child so that way that they'd have to pay the bills. You have to do something. And he works really hard at it. So I appreciate everybody who has subscribed to his channel, who likes his videos, who comment on them. That means a lot to me and to him, doesn't it? You love reading the comments, or I read the comments to him. And he loves that, don't you? He loves his Instagram page, getting to see, he'll look and see how many followers he's gotten. So we appreciate it, don't we? So if you have any extra questions, answer them. I may or may not do another video. You know, we might do that, we might not. I don't know if I can. It takes a huge mental toll on me to do this, but we can answer them. I can type it a whole lot easier than I can sit and talk about it. Can I?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Tell them bye, tell them thank you.
Bye guys, thanks.